Grand Portage Resources recently completed the 2018 drill program on its 100% controlled Herbert Gold Discovery property located in the prolific Juneau Belt in southeast Alaska. Drill results are expected through late 2018. Past drill results included numerous multi-ounce gold assays on multiple veins. Grand Portage trading symbols are GPG on the TSX Venture, GPTRF on the OTCQB, and GPB on Frankfurt. For more information, please visit our website, grandportage.com.
Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is investigative reporter Spencer Fernando. You can find his articles at SpencerFernando.com. Welcome back to the show and best of the season, Spencer.
Good to be here. Merry Christmas, almost.
I see Prime Minister Trudeau maybe has learned some international lessons with demands now that he calling the Chinese leadership to release the 3 Canadians being held, likely in retaliation for the Huawei executive being held in Canada for possible extradition to the U.S. He says he's learned that you can't just call up the Chinese president and demand things. You have to use proper channels, and every case is individual. Has Mr. Trudeau learned from his international mistakes?
I don't really think so. I mean, this would be a case where I think he would he should be talking to the head of China about that. But I think the deeper issue is that it just shows that you can't trust, a communist state. I mean, China doesn't believe in human rights the way we do. They don't even see individuals the same way we do. It's just a totally different mindset where they think everyone exists to serve the state. And so, I mean, they're obviously just really kidnapping Canadians just to try to make a point or to get leverage. There's no rule of law there the way there is here, so you just can't deal with China the same way you deal with another country. And it's another reason why we shouldn't be deepening our ties to them. We shouldn't be letting their corporations enter our country, and we shouldn't have a free trade deal with them. And none of which I think Trudeau is willing to stop. So I think he's still obsessed with China.
Did you find it ironic that China was saying, hey, it's a human rights abuse to hold the chief financial officer of Huawei, Meng Wanzhou?
Well, yeah, I mean, China's very good at just using the rhetoric of the West when they know it could benefit them. But again, I mean, right now there's about 1 million Muslim people in China who are being detained in camps, really, re-education camps they call them. So, I mean, yeah, there is no rule of law in China the same way there's no human rights in China. They're smart enough, the communist government's smart to know the rhetoric to use in the West to try to make their point, but they never apply that to themselves.
Huawei has also demanded the West prove that their phones and their micro cell towers are a security threat. Do we have to prove, and could they have been clever enough to hide the security threat that we couldn't find it?
I mean, they could be. I think if there's anything hidden, enough tech experts will look at it and find it. But we don't have to prove anything to them. Again, China puts extreme restrictions on companies coming into their country, on foreign ownership of companies in China. And so if they don't have to explain that to us, then we don't have to explain what we do to them.
Do you think Canada has an easy way out of this, or are we just easy pickings when it comes to the international world? I mean, the Russians don't like us now. The Americans still have steel tariffs. The English, I don't know if they've said anything bad about us lately. But Chinese, Russia, and the U.S., the 3 biggest powers out there, beating up on little Canada. Oh, add the Saudis. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I think the problem is that our leaders are far too outwardly focused. For one, we have an extremely weak military, extremely weak, totally underfunded. So we can't even defend our own territory. We can't exert any power anywhere else. So countries don't respect us because we have no real power. And our leaders, they're weak, and they're always obsessed with the international community. So they're always looking for more trade deals and more export opportunities, always assuming that the only way our economy can grow is by trading with other countries, and that's an important part of it, but we also have to grow internally. We need to have free trade between our own provinces, which we don't even have. And then the one area where we do have great export opportunities with the oil industry, the government's actually restricting it. So it's really quite crazy. We could be making a lot more money by having, free trade between provinces, exporting more oil. Government's doing the opposite. And we don't build our own economy. We don't build up our own military. And so there's no reason for countries to fear or respect us.
Yes, experts have told us something like $40 billion a year or more is wasted because of interprovincial trade barriers. Should that be a priority for the governments to end? Right now, you can't legally bring any booze from Alberta into BC.
Yeah, it's absurd. I mean, I don't know how Canadian governments can go around the world and say they support free trade when we can't even trade freely within our own country. I mean, it's crazy. So again, but it's this outward obsession. You know, the government's always obsessed with the rest of the world, not worried about what's happening here in Canada. And again, to get back to the military point, I mean, it's something I bring up a lot, but you know, we can't be naive. Having a strong military is one of the best ways to be respected around the world. And it's one of the best ways to, you know, avoid having your country messed with. The stronger your military is, ironically, the less likely you are to ever have to use it, the less likely other countries are to mess with you. But right now, Canada does not have a strong military at all.
Well, how much respect do you get when you buy worn-out airplanes from Australia to replace your worn-out airplanes?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're taking the stuff that Australia didn't want because it was too old. Yeah, replacing old airplanes with the same kind of old airplanes. It just shows the government doesn't take it seriously at all. And so if we don't take our own defense seriously, then why would other countries take it seriously?
And I had an armed forces person who broke his legs in Afghanistan when a mine went off his borrowed German tank, saying if he had been in one of the original Leopard tanks that Canada bought, he would have been dead.
Wow. Yeah, it's just, I don't see how governments are even allowed to do that. If you send people into harm's way, you have to give them the best equipment possible. And we seem to send soldiers into dangerous situations with terrible equipment. And then when they get injured, they don't get the help they need. Even when they are promised help, the government finds a way not to help them out. So again, I think you can't be really a serious country on the world stage or even a serious country at home if you don't take your own defense seriously.
We'll have more with Spencer Fernando right after this.
Hi, I'm Douglas Mason, President and CEO of Magnum Gold Corp, MGI and the TSX Venture Exchange. A 2015 drill program on the LH property intersected several high-grade gold intersections, including 11 meters of 20.66 grams per ton gold. Additional drill targets on the LH property have been identified by a 2018 drone airborne magnetic survey to further evaluate a pyrrhotite-enriched gold-bearing system. Please visit our website at magnumgoldcorp.com.
MGX Minerals is revolutionizing the new energy economy with patented lithium extraction technology, replacing traditional solar evaporation using low-cost, low-energy nanofiltration. The first system of this paradigm shift technology is currently being commissioned. MGX Minerals trades on the CSE, symbol XMG, the OTCQB, symbol MGXMF, and Frankfurt, symbol 1MG. For more information, visit our website, mgxminerals.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Spencer Fernando. Spencer, is it true that the Trudeau government has told the public service to get rid of any gender-sounding language in legislation, say calling a ship a she or things like that?
Yeah, there was an order given to the public service to stop using words like mother, father, Mr., and Mrs., forcing them to switch to gender-neutral language, which again, it's just, no one was complaining about that. The vast majority of people would be referred to as Mr. or Mrs., mother or father. So to order everyone to make the change makes no sense to me at all. I can understand in a situation where if a specific person wants to be referred to in a different way, that's fine. They can indicate that somehow. But to change it for everybody, it just seems crazy.
Well, I recall when the NDP was in power in BC last time, they ordered BC Ferries to rewrite all of their manuals and operating procedures so that ships no longer were referred to as she. It had to become its, and it cost millions of dollars. Are they going to do this retroactively in Ottawa, rip through literally centuries of legislation and try to change everything instead of taking a look at what needs to be done in the future?
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all if the government is doing that. I mean, it seems like they're always looking for things to change that nobody's complained about. The national anthem is a good example. Nobody was really calling for that to change, and they decided to change that for everybody all of a sudden. So again, I just don't think that, it's just political correctness gone way too far. You know, certainly people should try to be nice to each other, try to avoid using offensive words if they can, but when you start going after things that are just basic, really human history, then it makes no sense.
Is it true they plan to go after people for possible hate crime charges if they complain about immigration policies?
Yeah, that's one of the concerns with the global compact on migration, which is that it says anti-migration speech is considered hate speech, and it says government should be cracking down on that. The problem is, though, I mean, they never really make a distinction between illegal and legal immigration. They just call it all migration. So you could have people entering the country illegally. You could say, we don't want people coming into Canada illegally. And people could say, oh, well, that's hateful rhetoric. That's against migration into your country. That's hate speech. You're not allowed to do that. And we've already seen governments are willing to influence social media companies to tell people what they can and can't say. They're willing to make things criminal offenses. And the UN Global Compact on Migration, it talks about how this is the template for legislation at the national level. So I think that's a very big concern.
Prime Minister Trudeau today, at the very end of his speech after announcing all of the so-called accomplishments of his government, did say, Canada supports free speech and journalists, you're doing a great job. Is he trying to suck up to us because there's a federal election next year? Yeah,
well, of course he is. And he's also giving the bailout to establishment media, right? So he's trying to get more favorable coverage by saying good things about the media. Of course, his government never has a problem with hiding information or making access to information requests tougher to get, or even excluding journalists from events as they excluded journalists in China. Yeah, he says one thing and then does another.
We'll have more with Spencer Fernando right after this.
I'm Kelly Jennings, CEO of Powerband Solutions. Powerband is a cloud-based provider of auction, inventory, and finance solutions that make buying, selling, and financing vehicles more efficient. Powerband Solutions trades on the TSX Venture Exchange symbol PBX and on the OTCQB symbol PWWPF and on Frankfurt symbol 1ZV. For more information, please visit us at powerbandsolutions.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Spencer Fernando. Spencer, has there been any resolution yet for the Armed Forces captain who lost a leg and the federal government refuses to pay for her $34,000 replacement leg, even though she's still on active duty in Afghanistan?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, the government, under a lot of pressure, seems to be hinting that they'll try to fix that. Of course, that's often what they'll say something to try to make the news cycle shift away from the story, and then they won't do anything. So they need to be pressured on that. But there has been a GoFundMe campaign that's already raised, I think, about $15,000 last time I checked. That was in about 4 or 5 days it raised that much. I contributed a bit. I wrote an article about it as well, trying to encourage people to contribute. So it seems like it may end up getting taken care of just by, Canadians deciding to chip in and help out. But it really, again, as we talked about before with the military, it just goes to show how, the people who serve our country are often treated with disdain by the government and by even the military in many cases. They basically try to use a narrow technicality to avoid giving her the money for her leg, which, again, if someone's serving the country and sacrificing, the idea that you'd use a technicality to try to get out of helping them after a horrible tragedy like what she went through.
Yeah, and it's pretty obvious when you're missing a leg, you're not faking it.
Yeah, it's not a pretend injury. It's gross, really. And then we find that the government's giving out, I think it was $25,000 checks to people at Roxham Road, I guess to try to buy people off so they don't get upset about the illegal immigration problem there. So yeah, they can give out checks to people, some of whom even said, they haven't even seen a problem in the area where they live, but they're still glad to get the money. So they get a bunch of money, but someone who served the country and gets terribly injured doesn't get anything.
And is still willing to do the job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like what I say often. Why you look at this and you think, why would anyone really want to join the military now when they see that you get bad equipment, you still get sent into dangerous situations, and then if you get hurt, they don't really help you out.
And it's not like there aren't funds to do it. Both the Harper and Trudeau governments have left hundreds of millions of dollars on the shelf that was put there to help out military people, and yet they don't spend it. Why budget it and then not use it?
Yeah, it's amazing how it's the only, it's like the only part of government that constantly underspends. Everywhere else they overspend. And then when it comes to helping people who serve, we'll go under budget this year. So I think there's a big problem in Canada's military. I think the whole establishment of the military probably needs to be there needs to be a massive house cleaning. They can't, the recruitment numbers are bad. The equipment's bad. The procurement process is bad. The treatment of veterans is bad. The treatment of people who serve is bad. Our ability to defend our country is bad. There's really nothing good going on in the Canadian military, except for the people who serve in it. And the people who make the decisions are obviously not doing a good job. So I think there needs to be widespread firing and probably a big cultural change. I mean, it seems like right now the head of the military is more concerned with political correctness. They keep trying to get more and more women to join the military. And then after years of trying, they say, well, the numbers are barely moving. Well, if a woman wants to join the military, that's great. But to try to artificially change the numbers, I mean, recruit who you can recruit. Everywhere in the world, you see, without exception, more men generally like to join the military than women. So to be spending a whole bunch of money and time on trying to change that when we can't even defend the country, it again seems very crazy to me.
Well, Canada had the first female fighter pilots in NATO. It doesn't seem to be a gender problem at all or prejudice. What they want to be, though, is treated with respect. And if you won't even replace a blown, a leg lost in an accident, what kind of respect is that for a woman?
Exactly. Yeah, that's the thing about it, right? It's if there's any barriers to people joining, if there's any discrimination, that's obviously unacceptable, and you need to get rid of that. But beyond that, then it's just whoever joins. And so to go out of the way to try to meet an artificial quota, and then, as you say, when a woman actually serves and then suffers a horrible injury, the government and military finds a technicality not to help her out. It's just, it's very strange to see such a politically correct agenda running the military. The military really doesn't have room for political correctness. It's designed to protect the country, and in some cases to kill the enemies of the country. And if you're not focused on that and you're focused on political correctness, then it's very, very weird.
Should the Trudeau government be investigated for potentially funding terrorism?
Yeah, that's what highly respected expert Thomas Quiggin has asked for. The issue there is that the government has been giving money to Islamic Relief Canada, which is a subgroup of Islamic Relief worldwide, and they have been found repeatedly to be giving money to organizations linked to Hamas. They've even been numerous banks and governments have banned Islamic Relief worldwide and said it's not a credible organization. Money from it is going to terrorist groups. Israel, the United Arab Emirates, Bangladesh, HSBC Bank, Charities Aid Foundation, Financial Times, and UBS Bank have all either reported on or given warnings on how money from Islamic Relief Worldwide is getting to terrorist groups. So, that group is still getting money within Canada, and that's obviously not a good thing.
Also, taking a look at Canada not being able to get its oil out to foreign markets, the Trudeau government giving the oil industry $1.6 billion in benefits, one of them to help find new markets for the product. Well, how silly is that when we know how to get out to the world, and what new markets are there that haven't been found?
Yeah, it's very strange again. A lot of this is strange if you're trying to figure out how it makes sense. But the thing is, it doesn't make sense, right? It's a political game. The Trudeau government's trying to slowly, maybe even quickly, strangle the energy industry while acting like that's not what they're doing. So find new markets for oil. Well, people know where the markets are. We just need pipelines to get it there. And so if they can't get pipelines, then you can find all the markets you want, but you can't get oil to them if you don't have pipelines. And, one of the problems is that the government applies different standards to Canadian oil than it does to oil from other countries. They put an environmental emissions assessment, the upstream and downstream emissions review, they call it, and they use that to analyze pipeline projects in the country, to see what effect it will have. And that basically starts to say that all pollution emanating from that source, even from secondary sources or secondary uses of it, gets included in the assessment of a project. But they don't apply that to Bombardier. They don't say, Bombardier builds planes and those planes are going to be using jet fuel. And they don't apply it to oil coming into the country from other countries. So they don't say, oh, Saudi oil, where is that going to get used? What kind of pollution is that going to cause? So we're holding our own oil to a standard that we don't even apply to foreign oil, which that's another big part of the problem.
Stuart Muir from the Resource Works Society had a great theory. He said Canada should export as much LNG as possible because worldwide that'll help reduce the use of more polluting fuels, especially coal. Is that something that the government should be doing its very best to promote?
Yeah, I think we should be exporting as much of our energy as we can. Again, the government keeps talking about wanting more exports, even when we don't have free trade within our own country. And the one industry that's extremely poised without much, they don't need help. They just need the government to get out of the way. An industry that's already poised to massively increase exports, the oil industry and gas industry, gets held back. So it makes no sense to me at all. And, again, if people kind of make the argument that, the world is moving away from oil, but that's not going to happen for a long time. All the projections are that oil is going to be used, and oil use is still going up for many, many years. And while we have it, we should sell it as much as we can, make as much money as we can from it. It benefits the country, benefits Canadians, and to just keep it in the ground you're just literally throwing money away.
And of course, that could fund alternative sources and make them more sustainable in the future.
Yeah, exactly. If you really want to shift, you use as much energy as you have now, sell as much as you can, and then a portion of those funds goes towards investing in new forms of energy. So then everybody wins. People who want to shift to new forms of energy, that we get there. And obviously the jobs and wealth that comes from the energy industry and from the resources we have, actually gets used. So I don't see why we can't have it both ways, but current government seems, they want to focus on just new energy, and the current energy, they're really holding it back.
Spencer, anything else you wanted to add to today's show?
No, just Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
And the same to you. My guest has been investigative reporter Spencer Fernando. You can find his articles at spencerfernando.com. If you have any questions for Spencer or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@howstreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Best of the season.
Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.